There's a question that has haunted the ambitious for centuries. What is the fastest way to get rich? Not the safest, not the most moral, the fastest. Most people spend their lives chasing phantoms, working hard, saving modestly, obeying rules designed to keep them ordinary. They walk the maze of effort and obedience, never realizing the truth was in plain sight. The wealthy saw it long ago, and they hid it. Because if you ever learned how the game really worked, you'd stop playing theirs and start building your own. Let's tear away the illusion. Riches don't go to the smartest person in the room, nor to the one sweating longest in the dark. If intellect and labor built wealth, professors and construction workers would rule the world. But they don't, because this game does not reward virtue. It rewards power, and power, when leveraged with precision, prints money. Centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli wrote not for the crowd, but for the crown. His ink was steel, his words blueprints for dominion. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." He understood the world as it is, not as it should be. He saw the truth. Money flows not to those who obey reality, but to those who shape it. That is why the rise to riches often appears sudden. One year a man is invisible. The next he's on magazine covers, running empires, dining with kings. But his ascent was never sudden. It was surgical, strategic. He didn't stumble into wealth. He bent reality until it poured into his hands. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are mentally caged. They've been taught that safety equals prosperity. Work 40 years, save, retire modestly, die quietly. But modesty never built empires. Boldness did. Machiavelli would laugh at the idea of slow wealth. He would say, "He who dares is he who ascends." The ladder to riches isn't climbed one cautious step at a time. It's seized by those who leap while others hesitate. It's not luck, it's the reward for courage and cunning. The rich don't wait for perfect timing. They act while others freeze. They don't play fair. They play to win. Most people stay broke because they sell the one thing that never scales, time. They trade hours for wages, grind endlessly, believing effort will somehow lead to breakthrough. But effort without leverage is a treadmill. The janitor mops harder. The CEO moves capital. One is exhausted, the other is enriched. Why? Because the CEO controls systems. He commands people. He owns platforms. The janitor's effort has no leverage. Machiavelli would point at this and whisper, "There lies your poverty, not in your effort, but in your position." Power creates wealth. And power at its core is the ability to make others act according to your vision. That's why perception matters more than truth. If you are seen as powerful, others defer to you. They lend you their time, loyalty, and resources. You multiply those and you ascend. The fastest path to riches begins with one act of rebellion. Stop behaving like a laborer and start thinking like a ruler. Stop trading effort. Start trading direction. Build systems. Build movements. Build attention. Every empire is built on the backs of those who follow, so stop following. If you want wealth fast, you must abandon the environments that reward obedience and seek those that reward boldness. A job that pays you to be cautious is a cage lined with a salary. No matter how luxurious the cage, it's still a trap. And the cruelest part? It steals your prime years. You give your youth, your fire, your brilliance, only to retire with crumbs. Meanwhile, those who took risks early are now buying companies, buying land, buying time, because they moved while others waited. The world rewards movement, always. To move fast, you need leverage. And leverage means you do something once, but it works for you 1,000 times. That's why ownership matters. Own businesses, own digital real estate, own assets, own distribution channels. Whatever you do, own something. Because owners build equity, and equity compounds. Employees build empires, but for other people. If you're still thinking like a worker, understand this. Every hour you give, you're building someone else's throne. And then there's perception, the invisible engine of rapid wealth. The way people see you determines what they offer you. Influence brings deals. Charisma brings investors. Certainty brings followers. If people believe you're rising, they'll hand you their energy before you even ask. So control how you're seen. Control the narrative. Craft an image so magnetic that people chase you before you speak. But none of it works without one thing: boldness. You must develop a bias for action. Most people drown in hesitation. They want guarantees, proof, safety. But by the time they're ready, the moment is gone. The rich don't wait, they leap. And yes, sometimes they fall, but more often they land on fortunes. Because in this world, speed beats perfection. A fast, imperfect move is worth more than a perfect move that never happens. When you move fast, people will notice. They'll call you lucky. They'll call you reckless. But that's because you're breaking the unspoken rule. Don't move without permission. Machiavelli never asked for permission. He acted, manipulated, conquered, and that's why his words echo centuries later. He didn't play the game, he rewrote it. Here's where the psychology cuts deep. Most people don't act boldly because they fear loss, but the greatest loss is the life unlived. Every time you hesitate, you hand your future to someone else. Fear, in the hands of the bold, becomes fuel. It sharpens focus. It clarifies decisions. Those who rise fastest are not fearless. They simply move through fear. So how do you begin? You act. You pick the one move you've been avoiding, and you execute it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Send the pitch. Start the brand. Call the investor. Step into the arena. Claim the attention, because wealth doesn't wait. It doesn't reward the cautious. It rewards the daring. And when you dare, truly dare, something shifts. People feel it. They gravitate toward it. Opportunities multiply at a pace that will seem supernatural to those still trapped in the slow lane. But it's not magic. It's Machiavellian. It's strategic. It's power weaponized. When you embrace this mindset, the world no longer feels random. You begin to see that wealth is not an accident. It obeys laws. And those laws bend to leverage. If you want to move faster than the crowd, stop relying on effort and start relying on multipliers. These multipliers are everywhere, but invisible to those too busy grinding to look up. The man working 10 hours a day sees only the next task. The man building systems sees the whole chessboard and moves 5 pieces at once. The difference is vision. So what are these multipliers? They come in 4 forms: money, people, knowledge, and attention. Each, when mastered, accelerates your rise beyond what effort alone could ever reach. Start with money. Most fear debt. The wealthy exploit it. The poor say, I can't afford to start. The rich say, whose capital can I leverage? Loans, partnerships, investors, these aren't crutches. They're catapults. When used with precision, they launch you years ahead. While others save to lay a brick, you build a tower with someone else's resources. Next, people. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler never pulls the sword himself. He commands others to strike in his name. Power multiplies through delegation, influence, persuasion, mobilization. A leader who can align others to his vision scales faster than any lone genius. Employees, partners, followers, they're not costs. They're engines. You don't climb the ladder alone. You build an elevator, and others help you rise. Then comes knowledge, but not the passive kind. The kind that collects dust. Real leverage lies in asymmetrical knowledge, knowing what others don't, acting before others see, spotting trends before they go mainstream, buying before the herd arrives, selling before the crowd panics. The world rewards those who move early. Reading isn't enough. Learning isn't enough. You must act on insight while it's still invisible. And finally, attention. The most underestimated currency in the modern world. If people know your name, they trust you. If they trust you, they buy, they follow, they invest. One idea seen by millions can out-earn a lifetime of silent effort. That's why influencers rise so fast. Attention is leverage. Those who command it can convert it into anything. Sales, capital, control. The battle for wealth is the battle for attention. Yet most people do the opposite. They work silently, build slowly, wait for permission. Machiavelli would call this cowardice dressed as virtue. The man who insists on doing everything alone wears pride like a chain. He mistakes self-reliance for strength, when in truth, it's a cage. The rich move with alliances, with armies. They ride waves of attention, not whispers of approval. They gather strength not to be loved, but to be obeyed. Humans are drawn to strength. When they see someone move with clarity and speed, they follow. People don't follow perfection. They follow motion. That's why you must act even when uncertain. While others wait for the map, you build the road. That act alone creates magnetism, and magnetism attracts wealth. Ignore this and you burn out. You work harder while others rise higher. You become bitter, watching the unworthy surpass you. But it's not about fairness. It's about strategy. Leverage beats labor every single time. That's the truth most never accept. They ask, how can I do this? When they should be asking, who can do this for me? What tool can make this faster? That single shift, from doing to directing, transforms everything. You move from worker to general, from participant to architect. Machiavelli would say, a wise ruler neither wastes effort nor time where delegation can win both. Once your mind adapts to that truth, the game changes instantly. But understand this, the moment you begin to rise fast, you will invite resistance, jealousy, sabotage, betrayal. These are not signs that you're doing something wrong. They are the receipts of progress. The powerful will always attract enemies, because your ascent exposes what others lack: courage, vision, will. You become a mirror reflecting their inadequacy, and instead of rising themselves, they'll try to drag you back down. Expect it, prepare for it, laugh at it, because if no one is trying to stop you, you're not moving fast enough. Stay the course. Build leverage. Act boldly. Endure resistance. And soon you will notice something subtle. People begin to depend on you. They seek your approval. They quote your words. They orbit your presence. You have become necessary. You are no longer just wealthy. You are influential. Wealth flows to you now not because you chase it, but because you embody control. You have become a node of power in the system. And yet that's not the end. That's the beginning of something greater. Because true power doesn't just own assets. It shapes environments. It doesn't just participate in markets, it defines them. You begin to influence how industries evolve, how cultures shift, how empires rise. That is the level Machiavelli revered. Not the man counting coins, but the man who controlled the mint. Not the one begging for favor, but the one who decided who received it. So what does this mean for you? It means you must act today. Identify one area where you've been thinking too small, one opportunity you've delayed, one move you've postponed out of fear, and execute it. Reach out to the investor, launch the project, form the alliance, create the system, make the ask, take the step. Not later, now. The world doesn't pause for hesitation. Wealth doesn't wait for doubt to subside. Opportunity doesn't slow down for your insecurities. History doesn't remember the cautious. It remembers the bold, the ones who risked, who moved first, who forced the world to take notice. This is the law of momentum. Those who move with force gain more force. Every bold act creates gravity. It pulls people, resources, and opportunities toward you. Soon your name becomes a magnet. You stop chasing and start being chased. You stop seeking and start being sought. That shift, from the seeker to the source, is the true beginning of unstoppable wealth. And once you've entered that gravitational field, the game transforms completely. You're no longer playing to survive. You're not even playing to succeed. You're playing to rule. Every decision you make ripples outward through markets, networks, competitors. You speak and the room adjusts. You appear and the atmosphere shifts. Why? Because you've stacked leverage upon leverage like weapons in the hands of a strategist. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's Machiavellian mastery. It belongs only to those who understand that speed, power, and positioning are the real currencies of wealth. But there's another level, one few ever reach. The truly rich don't just leverage others. They create ecosystems. They don't just sell products. They build platforms. They don't just build companies. They become the gatekeepers through which others must pass. They stop playing roles and start writing scripts. That's how dynasties are born. That's how rulers rise. That's how wealth transforms from something you earn into something you generate at will. Let's talk about strategic positioning. The poor try to build value from the outside in. They chase markets, trends, and permission. But the rich, the fast, the bold, they start from the center. They position themselves where wealth already flows. In capital networks, in distribution pipelines, in attention hubs. Once there, they extract value with minimal friction. That's why bankers, brokers, and tech founders dominate so quickly. They didn't conjure wealth from nothing. They intercepted it midstream. So ask yourself, where does money naturally flow in the world you live in? And how can you stand at the source instead of the sidelines? Maybe it's an emerging technology, a rising platform, a shifting culture. Don't wait to be invited. Insert yourself early, aggressively, before the crowd even wakes up. Because once the crowd arrives, the margins vanish. The first mover takes the lion's share. The rest fight over scraps. That's why you must master timing. The faster you can identify an opportunity and act decisively, the more wealth you capture before others even realize what's happening. This isn't gambling, it's strategic preemption. Acting on signals before they become noise. While the crowd debates, you execute. While they wait for certainty, you build dominance. That's how fortunes are made in silence and revealed in shock. People will whisper, "Where did he come from?" They never saw the moves, only the result. That's the beauty of strategic speed. It's invisible until it's undeniable. And what happens when you master this level of motion? You stop chasing opportunities. You become the opportunity. People pitch you. They offer equity, partnerships, alliances, because your very presence adds value. That's when you stop being a player in someone else's game and start becoming the architect of your own. But beware, the game only gets more dangerous from here. The more power you accumulate, the more you threaten those who depend on the old order. They will whisper, accuse, and conspire, not because you've done wrong, but because you've moved too fast for them to catch up. Power always creates enemies. That's the Machiavellian law. The worst mistake you can make is slowing down to explain yourself to those who never understood the game in the first place. The lion does not negotiate with the sheep. He moves, he roars. He conquers, and the world adapts. So when they shame you for moving boldly, thank them. When they envy your rise, smile. When they spread rumors, let them. Noise means motion. Resistance means momentum. It's proof that you've left the ordinary behind. You've graduated from the school of survival, and now sit at the table of dominion. Understand this. The endgame was never just money. It never is. Money is the shadow cast by influence. Influence is born from leverage, accelerated by speed and sustained by strategy. When you control attention, you control behavior. When you control behavior, you control belief. When you control belief, you control action. And when you control action, you print money. That's why the rich don't fear loss. They can lose everything today and rebuild tomorrow because they never relied on income. They relied on influence. That's what you must cultivate. Build systems that run without you. Build networks that speak your name when you're not in the room. Build brands so powerful that they convert attention into cash, even while you sleep. Don't be the one who works for the machine. Be the one who owns it. And as you scale, never forget this. You are not here to compete. You are here to dominate. Competing is for those still asking permission. Dominating is for those who take it. Machiavelli never wrote about fair play. He wrote about effective play, about bending rules, shaping minds, and engineering outcomes. That is the spirit you must carry into every decision. So what's the final step? There isn't one. Because once you understand leverage, once you embrace boldness, once you move faster than the doubt of the average man, you never stop. You become momentum itself. You evolve from man to movement. And movements don't ask. They act. They disrupt. They define eras. So ask yourself, are you willing to be seen as dangerous? Are you willing to act when others freeze? Are you willing to take so much action so fast that the old version of you wouldn't even recognize who you've become? That is the standard. That is the cost. That is the path. The fastest way to get rich isn't hidden, it's uncomfortable. It demands more from you than society ever told you to give. It requires you to think like a commander, not a follower. To act like a prince, not a pawn. To move as if the world already belongs to you. Not because it does, but because you're the only one bold enough to take it before anyone else even tries. So burn this truth into your mind. Wealth flows not to the careful, not to the kind, not to the quiet, but to the bold, the fast, and the strategic. Be all three. And the world won't just give you riches, it will give you rule. Because in the end, fortune belongs to the bold. And the bold do not wait.